Madam Vice President, thank you so much for joining us on America's Now.
Thank you for the invitation. It's for me a pleasure.
Former Peruvian President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski was recently forced to resign because of misconduct and corruption allegations. Former Presidents Humala and Toledo are also in trouble. So what does Peru need to do to move forward?
As a matter of fact, I want to make clear that President Kuczynski only have allegations, but nothing is proved, and I'm sure he is innocent of all these accusations that don't have any fundament. On the other side, he was a good promoter of having policies for having integrity in the way we participate in the relationship with the private sector and the public sector. As a matter of fact, he created a particular group. He convoked a group of notable people to prepare sort of a decalogue or something like that to have some measures for anti-corruption. We put up many of those measures, and as a matter of fact, while I was the Prime Minister, I was preparing the second group of measures to have more integrity in the behavior of public servants, but also in the relationship with the private sector. I hope that the new president, which is my colleague Martin Vizcarra, he was also the vice president, will continue with that job. I think he will present to the Congress a special request for the possibilities of implementing decree laws in the terms for having more integrity in our behavior. That's why our government put that into the agenda, because we really believe that having problems like the ones we already mentioned, this is a systemic thing that came from some construction firms coming from Brazil that really infected our society, and also other Latin American countries. We can get rid of that. So we will keep on that. Transparency is a key issue in the process, to have transparency in the contracts, to make sure that you have clear biddings in the processes of investment, for example, on public investment, or in the processes of public-private partnerships. So I think with that kind of clear processes of contracts and the provision of services, I'm sure we can reduce the risk of having corruption and, of course, give better services to our people.
Peru isn't the only country in the region under the focus of corruption allegations. Why are so many other countries, not just in Latin America, but around the world, finding such a problem with this? And what message do you want to send to the international community?
I think we have to have agreements across the board in terms of that. For example, our willingness to participate in the OECD, we are not yet invited, but we want to be part of the OECD, is because we can have, for example, good agreements. We already have some of them, for example, of exchange of information on financial misconduct across the board. We can have also information from the fiscal side, also across the board with the fiscal authorities. So we can cooperate across the board with our countries and see where we can find these problems. We also have to make sure that not any allegation should be considered as completely as a fact, because then we will have like having people that will be prosecuted without proof. We have to be careful. I don't want this to be a TV show, you know. I want this to be the prosecutors working clearly, transparently, but quietly, so we can get to the real people that committed the crimes, instead of being prosecuting people that probably are innocent, and we don't want to damage their honor. But we want to work together with other countries. And also, it brings us to a reflection. We have to think of what we are giving to our kids as part of our education, what kind of values, you know. We have to work with the families and the schools to bring values of respect of the other, to have more humanistic approaches to education, you know. Sometimes I believe in the market, but the market is not the only solution. It's a solution that should be accompanied by good rule of law and also the good respect of what the other people think and deserve, and the respect of the ownership of the things of the other people, you know. So we have to work from the very key, I think, values that sometimes are forgotten, and I think should be in the school and also in cooperation with the families.
But despite what's happening politically in Peru, its economy has remained strong. Why is Peru such an attractive country for investment?
I think because we start building good rules, particularly in the macroeconomic area, but also we start doing it with the microeconomic areas in which you have to take care of transparency, good rules, and biddings, for example. If there is good competition, transparency, and good competition, you will find out that you will have a country that will keep growing, because investment will be clean, will be well selected, and with good rules, and of course punishment if you have people doing something is wrong. So I think our macroeconomic policy is quite good, and I think with these advances in transparency and integrity, I'm sure we can keep on going and promoting the coming of foreign firms. Of course, we have done things like good treaties with many countries. We have free trade agreements with many countries, good commitments, like with China. We have an excellent cooperation program. This goes beyond the free trade agreement, in which we have this alliance, which is very profound. And I think that kind of behavior we can bring up our country, of course. We have to invest more in education. That's something that is very important, of course.
You mentioned that Peru and China have several bilateral agreements. You personally had a hand in all of that, from technology and mining to trade and energy. With the United States imposing tariffs on some Chinese products, does Peru see an opportunity to increase trade with China?
Yes, but at the same time, I think it's something we have to convince the U.S. government that having tariff and barriers to trade will reduce their welfare. I mean, their country welfare. Because the ones who are paying the tariffs are not the Chinese. Probably China will sell us more products and we can do more trade with them. But those who are going to be having the cost will be their own people, the American people, paying taxes, increasing the price, having less possibilities of buying less products coming from your countries like China. Trade is something that reduces cost for most people, because we have a comparative advantage. I'm an economist, so I will talk in that sense. So if China has the ability to produce iron in a cheaper way, China is buying our natural resources to produce that still, because it's buying iron from us. Probably there is trade, and we are buying the machinery that can produce that iron in Peru from US. Look at these possibilities of creating value for everybody. So it's not only that this trade is only one way to another, it's multiple ways that we can connect. As I mentioned, iron is produced in Peru. This iron is exported to China. Then you have steel coming from China, and the machinery that is produced in US is coming to Peru. You're losing when you cut the possibilities of having that trade.
And you are an economist at heart. How closely have you been watching trade tensions between the United States and China? And how will Peru be impacted in the event there is a trade war?
I think at this moment we have a good, excellent relationship with China. It's our first or second partner in terms of trade, and we don't want to reduce that relationship. US is also affecting us, because probably we'll put tariffs on our steel and also on aluminum, and we export them very little, but compare what is exported from China. But having that will reduce the welfare of our country, of those particular industries. But probably we will increase our trade with China. We don't want to reduce it. We see our possibilities because, for example, we are bringing more mining operations in our country at this moment. Toromocho, which is a very important investment coming from China, will need the possibilities of more machinery coming from US. And we need the relationship with China so this investment come to our country. We're sure it will come because there is a big possibility of increasing the size of the mine. So again, I insist, trade is the possibilities of expanding welfare of all the countries altogether. It will reduce the possibility of having welfare. Someone has to pay those taxes, those tariffs, and probably will be the people from US, and the welfare there will be reduced.
U.S. President Donald Trump has been in office for more than a year now. He has yet to make a visit to Latin America as president. How do you see ties between Peru and the United States at the moment?
During the time I was Prime Minister of the country, we have an excellent relationship with the US. President Kuczynski was very close. They used to talk a lot. And President Kuczynski tried to convince him to get in touch with the business community in Latin America, because that way he can understand the willingness of cooperation that we have. We have cooperation also in other matters, like reducing, for example, drug dealing in Latin America. That's an area we have to keep working all together. And to do that, we need also the possibilities of having opportunities of trade. For example, for our people that produce coffee or produce cocoa or that produce rice or other goods and services that we have, because it's an alternative. We have for many years cooperation from US for alternative crops, for example, here in Peru. If those alternative crops are going through these trade agreements to US. So I hope that President Trump understands that Latin America is as important as Syria or Russia for the future of also for US. You know, Latin America is an important area of development altogether, and it was a natural partnership that should be in place.
Vice President Mercedes Araoz, thank you so much for joining us on America's Now.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me.